For our next series of videos, we're going to use a model that I built for a client, and this is of an existing residence. And I want to show you in this series what you do in order to start setting up your file to present it to somebody and to kind of keep it organized for yourself. So we're going to talk about scenes, we're going to talk about how to change your perspective, we're going to talk about different sections that you can do, different styles, all of that is going to be covered in the next few videos, and just what you need to do to present your model to somebody or to keep it kind of clean and organized for yourself while you're working. So I'm just going to kind of take you on a quick little tour through this model, just to show you that it's been basically fully realized without being furnished yet, because I didn't want to get into the design aspect of any of this stuff. But I just want to show you that when I'm at this stage, once I'm at the point where I've made all of the basic bones of a structure, at this point I can start to get myself set up, and I can start to plan my scenes out in a way that is strategic, so that as I work I can always get back to the same place. So let's talk about scenes, and let's get some scenes set up here. The first thing you need to do is you need to go to your window and your scenes tab, and this is going to pull up your scenes tab, and you'll notice you've got this little, I know that this window looks slightly different on a PC, but it's exactly the same information. So you'll notice that you can always click on this plus or minus button, and you've got one on your PC as well, that will show you what you're saving in your scene. And what a scene is going to be saving, we're going to talk about this a little bit in depth, but just quickly, what a scene is saving is it's saving where your camera is located, so where in space you are and what your point of view is. It's going to save what you have hidden and unhidden. It's going to save any layers that are visible. So if I turn off my plan layers, then the plan will stay off in that scene until I turn it back on. It's going to be saving any active section planes that we make, which we'll do in the next couple videos. Whatever style and whatever fog you have attributed to that scene, your shadows, and your axes location. So I recommend when you start, always have all of these checked, because it's a lot more difficult to control this kind of stuff if you start unchecking any of these. I also keep include in animation checked, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But always just keep all of these checked, and it will give you the maximum amount of control. So let's do an example here. The very first thing I do when I create a scene, or when I create a model that I'm going to be working on a lot, is I give myself one basic overall kind of zoomed out view from the top down that will allow me to always get back to where I started. So I can go, once I get myself into the view I want to be, I go to my scenes menu and I click add, and that gives me a new scene, and you'll notice a tab appears right here called scene 1. Now I don't want to call that scene 1 because that's a little bit too general, and I'm going to have a lot more scenes in this model. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this perspective, and I'm going to do this in all caps just because I like to. I'm just going to say perspective 1, and then in parentheses I'm just going to say generic, and that's going to let me know that this is my basic working mode. Now I can hit enter, and you'll notice that it changes to perspective 1 generic. So what that's done is, if I move over to this point now, and I decide to just get this out of the way a little bit, and I decide to work on just this window, for example. So let me go ahead and lock this, select everything and hide it, and then unlock it. So let's say I'm editing this one window and I'm working on this one little section, and then it's time to get back to my general overall working shot. If I just click on that tab that says perspective 1 generic, notice it now takes me back where I'm looking straight down to that same view, and everything is unhidden. So let's give another example. If I hide this roof and hide the top of the roof right there, and then I click back on my perspective 1 generic, it's going to bring that roof back. The reason for that is that the perspective 1 generic saved all of this bit of information, so I had nothing hidden in that section. But let's talk about something else. Let's say I add something to this model. So let's say I add, and I'm just going to do something kind of over the top and unrealistic. Let's say I have a big giant box right here, and I've painted it this kind of reddish brown color. So now I'm looking at that, and I've added this new bit of information to my model. Now I go back to my perspective 1 generic. That stays there because that is not something that's been hidden. That's not something that has to do with my camera location or my style or any of that. This is actual geometry. So this will stay in place. This is a good thing because now I can continue to work on this model and I can continue to edit it and update it, and my perspective stays the same. So I can always see it from the same view, but I'm not locked into what this model was when I made this. In other words, the scene itself is not a snapshot. It's more a saved point of view. So if I were to start editing some of this stuff, like if I were to actually delete these, so I'm instead of hiding them, I'm deleting them. And if I were to scale this up, so a couple quick little changes. Now if I go to my perspective 1 generic again, that stays the way it was because deleting something is actually getting rid of it, and scaling this is actually changing this thing. So again, this is not about creating a snapshot. This is about creating a scene. And we're going to get into a couple more different types of scenes as we move forward.